Good morning, Hardies. It's your girl Bryn here from Mo's and May's Baby. Thank you for joining me this morning. It's a glorious day. The sun is still shining. To be in October, especially from where I am. And don't forget to please, if you're feeling my vibe, like and subscribe to my channel. It's a new channel. I'm just trying to find something to keep me occupied after my retirement. So I thought I would start a little journey. So thank you for joining me today. I'm on my way to the doctor's, and I thought I'd still tell you a little bit more about myself. So in my earlier vlog I had mentioned that I suffer from asthma. I was diagnosed with asthma when I was 48 years old. And yes, your girl's gonna be 60 this year. And I can remember the doctor asking me, do you ever hear yourself wheezing? And I'm thinking, no, I've never heard any wheezing. So, funny story is, I had been hearing these birds outside my window, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these birds are keeping me up. Mind you, I worked the midnight shift, so as soon as I got up, I was hearing these. As soon as I got home, took a shower, and was ready for bed, I could hear these birds outside my window, and I'm thinking to myself, these birds are driving me crazy. I'm like, at this point, I need to find out if my nephew has a BB gun or something, so I can just get rid of some of these birds. And I'm at the window, I'm looking for them. I'm like, why are they even here? It's the winter time. And this went on for a couple months, and it's embarrassing to say, but it's all honesty. So after a couple of months that had gone by with me looking for these birds, that's keeping me up when I'm trying to sleep, I'm laying in the bed one morning, and finally I hear the birds, and I realize the birds are me. I was wheezing, and I had no idea what wheezing was. I mean, it wasn't like I was born with asthma. I wasn't even diagnosed with it, and at that time it probably had been less than 6 months. And so I thought that was just the funniest little thing. But on a serious note, in July of 2002, I was at work one day, and I had worked overtime. Like I said, I worked the 11 to 7 shift, but I had stayed over for 7 to 3. And I'm like, oh my gosh, around 2 o'clock, I started to feel really, really sick. And to be honest, I thought maybe I was coming down with the flu or something like that. Mind you, I had started noticing that I was having a problem being around a lot of perfumed or heavy smells. And so when I got out of work that morning, that evening at 3 o'clock, I had to return to work that night. I just went home, I took a shower, I went straight to bed. And I felt, when I first got up, I felt fine. But as I continued to get dressed to go to work, I realized I'm not feeling so well. But it's too late for me to call in. I would never want to call in that late, unless it was extreme circumstances, because, I'm due for work in less than an hour. So now I'm up, I'm getting dressed to go to work, and as time is progressing, I'm not feeling well. And so I get to work, I'm like, you know what, I should have a nice quiet night where I was working. I should be okay. Well, when I get to work, my supervisor tells me, oh, well, we had to move you. And I'm thinking, oh no. And I could hear him, I saw him talking, but I really didn't understand what he was saying to me. And I can remember saying to him was, I don't feel well. He said, you don't look well. Now, if anybody knows me at work, my supervisors know I'm a good worker. I never tried to shirk my duties or anything like that. I was always up and making my rounds, whatever I'm supposed to be doing, that's what I was doing. So for me to say to him, I don't feel well, when I tell you that man took care of me that night, he really looked out for me. And we were short-handed, so I didn't really want to leave them short-handed. But when I tell you, kudos to him, because he really looked out for me. And I had one of the younger ladies at work was just like, Miss Taylor, you want me to take you home? Because I didn't drive myself that night because my car was in the shop, and my nephew was living with me at the time, and he actually dropped me off. And I'm like, I don't want to put anybody out, Then I was thinking maybe I have COVID or something like that, and I wanted to go down and get tested, and the nurse wouldn't test me. But that's another story, because I guess her boss and one of my coworkers were going through a divorce, and so she didn't want the staff, her nursing team, to check on the staff. So, but anyways, like I said, my supervisor took such good care of me. The duties that I had that night, he had delegated them to somebody else, and I said, no, I will do it. And they were like, no, you just rest. And so I actually had 2 supervisors on that shift, and then the head supervisor, she came around and she was just like, Bryn, you don't look good. She said, it almost seems like you can't breathe. And I said, well, my throat is a little sore, but it's not like, I don't feel like I'm wheezing. I don't hear any wheezing or anything like that. I said, and my body was very achy, and I tell you, I thought it was the flu or possibly COVID because I had it before. And so I was really trying to isolate myself from people. So if that was the case, I wouldn't contaminate them as well and get anybody else sick. So that morning, when I got out of work, I literally sat in my car and I slept for like 45 minutes before going into the house. And by the time I got in the house, I can remember just taking my clothes off and just and where I took them off is where they ended up on the floor. And I crawled into the bed. And I don't know what had transpired. I don't even know how long I had actually really been at home. So I know I called one of my sons and I said, I need help. And of course he came over and he had got some soup and sandwiches, and he had bought me some soup and sandwiches, and he had went to the store because, like I said, I literally thought I had flu symptoms, and he bought cold medication and things like that. I got up, I took a shower, and I ate some of the soup, and the warm broth seemed like it actually, helped me to feel better. But unfortunately, it didn't last. And so I went and I laid back down, and I can remember my older sister calling, and then I was telling her I'm not feeling well, and then my brother had called me as well. And at this time, I don't know. I think this was on a Sunday, and Saturday was when I actually asked my son for help. So by now it's Sunday, but it seemed like I had been in bed for a long time. So then my brother calls me and he says, Charlie and I was talking and everything, maybe you might want to go to the emergency room. And I said, yes. And I got up. I didn't shower. I put on some clothes and I left. That's how bad it was. So, we get to the emergency room, and they're asking me all these questions and this, that, and the third, and they ruled out COVID. But what they did say was, it looked like I had pneumonia on both my lungs, and and they was trying to say it was from COVID, and I said no, I had been having problems for a while. I kept waking up gasping for air, and then I would do my treatments. When I did my treatments and I was out of my bed, I felt fine, but then when I would lay down, I would have another episode. And so my daughter actually lives in Georgia, but I was constantly calling her, and letting her know this is what's going on with me in case there's, an emergency, because at this time I was basically by myself. I actually believe, though, that my nephew was still living with me at the time, though. He was living with me when this was happening. But I still would let my daughter know what was going on with me, how I was feeling. But when I went to bed after that, it was just be I would not feel well. So when I went so now I'm at the emergency room, and they say to me, what hospital would you like to go to? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go to the hospital? And they were like, oh no, I didn't say that, but I'm just saying just in case you do. And so they didn't even tell me. They probably was afraid to. They ended up telling my brother that whatever I was allergic to, I really, really needed to stay away from. And there was, at this time, like I said, I knew the perfumes were a big issue for me, and I was trying to stay away from them. And in fact, just a couple weeks before that, my daughter had came to visit, and her kids, and they were spraying perfume in the house, and they had some, and they had sprayed it on, and they went in the car, and I said, I cannot ride in the car with you with that. I'm telling you, when I'm around those smells like that, it bothers me. I really can't breathe. And I used to wear a lot of perfume, and I admit I love perfume. It's not that I don't like the smell. I didn't like the smell anymore. It was just that I noticed I was having problems breathing anytime I was around a strong scent or flowery perfumes. And I don't really think they believed me, or I don't think they believed it was as bad as I said it was. So there was a unfortunate incident that happened with my daughter and my granddaughter while they were visiting, and it ended up with not turning out well, because we ended up having a really, really bad argument, so much to the point that because I can be petty at times too, and I ended up blocking them so I couldn't receive phone calls and unfriending them on Facebook. I know, very petty of me, but I was so upset. And because I am telling you, I'm having issues, but nobody's believing me. They think it's all in my head. And so when this happened a couple weeks later, so now they had to take me by ambulance to a different hospital. My brother wasn't allowed to go because they were still under that COVID restrictions and things like that. So I get to the other hospital, and I can hear the doctors and the nurses talking to me. And I thought I was answering, but maybe I wasn't, because the male nurse, he kept screaming at me, do you have sleep apnea? Do you wear a mask while you were sleeping? And I'm saying, no, I don't. I don't think I was actually responding, because he kept getting louder with his questions. So then he called the doctor over, and it was a female doctor, and he said, doctor, look, watch, every time she dozes off, her oxygen level is dropping. I think she has sleep apnea. And thank God she was smart enough to realize, she says, no, she can't breathe. So they ended up turning the oxygen up to like the number 4 for me. And when they did that, I could actually finally breathe. And I was downstairs in that emergency department for a few hours, must have been, because I had dozed off and went to sleep. And when I woke up, this gentleman was in there holding my hands. And at first, I didn't recognize him. I didn't even understand where I was. And I'm looking around trying to figure out, where am I and who is this guy? And I thought it actually was one of my coworkers. I thought it was her husband. I'm thinking, she calls him Mean Green. So I'm thinking, where am I and why is Mean Green holding my hand? And finally the person says to me, Mom, are you okay? And then I'm like, yes. And I recognized it was my son. And the next words out of his mouth was, well, Ma, if they didn't know before, I guess they know now. The smells from the perfume, because the nurses where I was working at, they wore a lot of perfume, and it had finally caught up with me. And my throat had closed pretty much shut. So I was getting steroids in my IV, and then I was getting the mask every 2 hours to help open up my lungs. And there was so much steroids. And people, we have to ask questions about the medications that we're taking, because steroids, not only do they swell you up, make you hungry, you gain a lot of weight, it also causes your blood sugar to go up high. So by the time this was all happening, my blood sugar was up really, really high, and they were trying to put me on insulin. Well, when I got home and I went to my regular doctor, he says, no, don't take that. And I wasn't taking it anyways, because I had already had a bout where I was feeling really, really tired. And I ended up having to go to make an appointment to see my doctor, and my blood sugar was a little bit elevated, more than normal, and it was because of the steroids. And I had no idea that the steroids would do that to my body. So we have to stay up on top of our health conditions. We have to ask questions about the medications that we're taking. And for anybody that's watching this video and you know somebody that's saying, okay, I have problems with perfume smells or any type of smells and things of that nature, and you think that, you know, oh, it's not a big deal, I can maybe I'll try a different perfume or wear a lighter scent. It has nothing to do with the smell. It has nothing to do with you. It's an unfortunate situation where the individual who has asthma and allergies cannot breathe properly when they're in those situations. And so I actually had to go and get allergy testing, and I was not only allergic to the flowers and things and I love flowers, and I was allergic to the flowers. I was even allergic to feathers, and my pillows were down feather pillows, and that was causing me to wake up gasping for air. So people, please be vigilant if you think that there's something that's bothering you, because as we get older, our whole body changes, and things that we could do yesterday, we can't do today. And I urge people just to be mindful, if you know somebody that has this situation, to know that it's not in their mind. It's a matter of life and death for them. Because if I had stayed home just a little while longer, I wouldn't be here today to share my story with you. But so now I have made it to my appointment, and being on my journey, and living my best life, taking care of my body, visiting the doctor regularly to make sure I have my annual checkup and things like that needs to go, pap smears, mammograms, all those things. We have to make sure we get them done so that if there is anything wrong, we can catch it early. And I just thank God, that I'm here today to continue to share my story with you. So until next time, Hearties, like I always say, never let them steal your joy, and let's just live our best life. Peace.